We've got Belgium versus Poland coming up for you as match number 5 of day number 1 of HGG number 2. And it's going to be a pretty cool match, I think, actually, because some of the players, they might not be the most well-known sort of, superstar players that you've seen, say, for example, championships and stuff, although there is one we can talk about in a minute. But in general, there are a lot of players you should know when you bring out names like Maverick. No, he isn't French. He's Belgian.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, popular misconception.
I should have turned and said that to the...
Yeah,
no.
It's weird because the guys, obviously, we cast France in the previous series. They were talking a lot about how maybe the French scene doesn't get as much recognition outside France as it should do. And I think one of the reasons for that is that they're a very insular scene. They do kind of, they all have they have combined Twitch channels that they all rotate streams on. They have a huge French language YouTube community as well, where they have a lot of very popular YouTubers. So they're they have this huge insular community in France, but they don't perhaps branch out as much as anyone else. And the reason everyone associates Maverick with France is that he's very much part of that crew. He gets involved in a lot of those projects as well. But no, as you rightly pointed out, he is representing Team Belgium in HGG here, along with Chinoise, Josie, and Oliek. Davido883650, who is that championship competitor you were alluding to.
Sounded like one player. Davido83650.
Dogme and Tutek rounding out the Polish team. And of course, we need to pay proper housekeeping to the fact that as we take a look at Belgium, we are in fact broadcasting out of Poland right now. So there are a lot of there's a lot of very invested Polish production team members who are watching this one with extra care and ready to hook us off stage if we say anything mean about Poland.
Poland are great. So that's all I've got.
Let's be honest, not the best looking country, is it?
Your opinions are your own, Saul, okay? That shot is actually close to where we are, right?
It is.
Wasn't that
close.
the arena?
Yep.
But anyway, speaking of Poland specifically, I do... There you go. Production's pick. I do think Poland have a significantly stronger team this year than they did last year.
Go on.
We have A83650. So he's obviously, championship, playoff performance followed by championship performance, absolutely on a hot streak at the moment. But Davido as well, we've seen him play in multiple tournaments. We know he's been a competitor for quite a long time now, actually.
Sure.
And then Tutek, Dogme, both just strong players. But I think it's going to be down to 83650 as their sort of star player overall. But let's have a look at what the lineups look like overall after the picks and bans have been done. Druid, boom, boom, gone. But we do see Hunter and Shaman as first picks. What do you think of the Hunter pick? Because I do feel like, and I don't have this confirmed, it feels like Hunter's been banned a lot today.
It does, yeah, and it's definitely, depending on which list you're going to end up bringing, it does do a lot of work in a lot of matchups. We're seeing the Cube and the new, the Cube Devil Saw Egg version and the slightly older, pure Recruit Hunter list, popping up a lot. And I think by process of elimination through this phase, you end up sitting with kind of a lot of the 4th, 5th, and 6th best decks in Hearthstone, which kind of tend to be your quest warriors, your control priests, your control mages, those kind of decks. And it's just kind of by the nature of which decks you end up with, that Hunter then ends up being quite powerful because it's such a fantastic anti-control deck against all of those options that you end up with. So it's actually no surprise, and I think it's actually a good recognition from Belgium that that's a deck that you want in your lineup against some of the stuff that you're going to be coming up against.
Right, and I think you touched on it slightly then, but Warrior is another big one for me so far today because we've played four of these matches now so far on stream at least.
You've lost count once already, Raven. Be careful.
We played 4 on stream. We've played more off stream, of course. But for me as well, Warrior feels like one of the most threatening decks right now.
Really?
I feel like when I watch it, look at the Warrior versus Priest. If Warrior hits a Paladin, it's just almost unwinnable. I'm wondering, is there any tech, or is there, maybe next week, is Warrior going to draw a ban because it's just so awkward? I feel like it's not really hit any bad matchups right now.
I guess it's a very similar argument to what I just broke down with Hunter. You can kind of take that whole spiel and interpose Warrior with what I said about Hunter, and it kind of still makes a lot of sense.
Especially if you're banning Druid.
Plus having a nice matchup, like you said, against that that aggro Paladin that's really about in spades as well. So yeah, maybe that does make a lot of sense. But we can see now pick order coming out for Belgium and Poland. Chinois is actually going to open on that Hunter deck for Belgium. He's going to be running into Davido's Shaman coming out from Belgium. That's going to be the first game that we're covering. And it's going to be Oliek pulling double duty for Belgium, whereas Davido is pulling double duty for Poland. Took me a second just to spot the double up on Poland's side.
I was going to say, we are not doing double duty on the Mage, though, because that's a slight graphical error. So we'll get that fixed, of course, going forward. Apologise about that. But yeah, you're not playing a class more than once in this format. I am excited.
Can't bring 2 different Warlock decks.
Most of the people in chat won't even get
that. No one gets that.
But I am excited to see the Hunter, especially versus a deck like Shaman as well, because it is Shudderwock, where I'm making a sort of grand presumption, yeah.
For Poland,
yeah. Sure. So Hex is obviously a big deal when you're talking about Death Rattle minions, right? You negate Hex, but you still have play deads, and there's still multiple Death Rattle minions in the deck. It's not like the Hex one thing and that's the game's burst. And also, it can be fairly aggressive as healing range. Sure, heals for a lot of health, but the big minions do a lot of damage too. So it's going to be very interesting how these breakpoints go. Especially again, you leave an egg on the board, well then Volcano doesn't feel good anymore. So it's just a lot of things to consider.
You've been on your high horse about that recently. The leaving eggs on the board. It seems to come out every time.
The worst part was I played one game when it happened, and I was like, this is clearly the incorrect way to play the matchup in every matchup.
Never leave an egg alive again.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, killing them, or if you're the hunter.
I'm totally lost. I'm going to be honest. Yeah.
There are 2 things, but we'll get through that as we are going to be casting the deck. So I can educate you, Sol, if you want, on how you play Hunter, as always. But yeah, the first matchup's going to be Hunter versus Shaman. Are there any other matchups here that like jump out to you as big wins for either country?
Again, we've got the Warrior available for Poland, which does have a few difficult matchups this time to go up against. We're not looking over this time at a Control Priest or a Control Mage or a Odd Paladin on the side of Belgium. So when you immediately said that I think like Taunt Warrior can potentially be a real powerhouse deck, my initial facial reaction was down to there are a lot of matchups in the game where I think Taunt Warrior just gets blown out.
Right.
And I think potentially there's a lot of them, coming up against from Poland's side here. So I think maybe the Taunt Warrior could end up being a weak point from this side, but it's at least happy that it's dodged this Hunter first and foremost, which is what we're going to see coming out from Chinois.
Yeah, and let's go. And just in case you don't know about the Hunter, I know it's been on stream a little bit earlier, but it basically just uses a weird combination of cards, to be completely honest. So Cube is one of the big cards in there, but you cube something like High Main, get King Crush at the top end, but you also have these Devil Saw eggs, which you can cube, creates a 5/5, and then there's 2 more eggs in the cube that then also die later to create a 5/5. My worry overall in a lot of matchups is if you hit the point of cubing the egg, you end up with a cube, a 5/5, and 2 eggs. But if the 5/5 and the cube get dealt with, you have 2 0/3s on the board that just sit there and can be ignored in some ways. I will say, though, there is a Defender of Argus in this list. Okay. So you can activate the eggs to do something, because in some lists, there's actually no way outside of them dying.
Right. And I think also it's matchup dependent, right? Yes. Because if you're against, for example, a Control Mage, they have very little way to kill multiple threats without ripping a big AoE, in which case having 2 eggs on the board is great because you're going to get the 2 5/5s afterwards. Same with, say, Shudderwock Shaman, where if they're trying to clear a big board with Volcano because they don't have enough hexes to answer everything in your deck. So then you have 2 0/3s on the board, which are going to die because they have the lowest health of anything on the board, and then, they end up popping open into 5/5s when a Volcano gets ripped. So what minion you choose to cube is very, very matchup dependent in this deck, I think.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see it, don't get me wrong. I really want to see how these different players just approach this deck, because one thing I approve of no matter what is a deck with tons of options is a good deck. I want to watch this and see what happens. So it's going to be a slow start for both players. Just going to be a tracking to kick off and get in the high main. So that's -1 high main in the deck. So -2 high mains now that Katarina can pull.
Stitch Tracker, always a nice pickup early for this deck. And do want to give a quick shout out to Chinoise, who's obviously leading out here playing the Hunter. He is a fellow Dusky boy with some of the players that we've been commentating so far, Orange and Hunter Ace, to say the least of the players that we've seen today. One of the most well-known and strongest practice groups in Hearthstone. And I think it was Orange that I was speaking to who gave Chinoise a special shout out and said, you know, he might not have the most Hearthstone Championship points, he might not have the best tournament results, but the one thing I will always credit Chinoise for is if someone pops in the Discord and says, hey, I need someone to test this matchup with, Chinoise is always there, willing to jam for as many hours as you want to go.
And that's what you need. And I will say as well, I actually obviously didn't know you were going to say that, but when Orange, in the past, as Orange has won and placed well in a fair few tournaments, has given shout-outs, the list changes ever so slightly tournament by tournament with who's available to practice, so on. But I think Chinoise is almost always on that list. You know, every single time it's like, oh, yeah, I practiced with Chinoise, and then names.
Sure.
Manatide looks fine, though. Not really tons of ways for the Hunter to deal with Manatide at this point. There's bits of removal. There's the double Hunter's Mark, double Candle Shot, of course. But outside of that and a Wild Pyromancer and Wing Blast, there's no ways off the board that you can actually just deal with a Manatide off the like on curve. And Dewey's got a second one as well, so this could kind of just snowball out of control already. And the big worry for me for a deck like this is without Play Dead, your plan is very loose, I would say. Because if you don't have Play Dead, none of your easy ways to proc a Death Rattle are there, because Terror Scale is still a 3 mana card, right? You can proc a Death Rattle, but it's still expensive. So now the choices are very, very tough for Team Belgium, because do you take an egg, so you've got an egg on the board, but then as we can see, he could egg, coin, cube, but then if cube just gets hexed, you've just done all that for a 5/5. So it's kind of hard to edge out a plan here when you go in so slowly.
And of course, there are the Earth Shocks that you have to worry about from Shaman on top of the hexes as well.
Only one, okay.
Single copy in Poland's deck,
Yep. Especially just looking at Belgium's. It just doesn't matter, does it? I quite like the second Manatide here. No need to play the Glacial Shard because freeze is actually super important in a deck like this.
If you get to a board state that has, you know, King Crush and so on it, and you don't have the Volcano or the Hex that you need to clear that, then yeah, you don't want to be just letting it attack you for 8 again on the following turn. So yeah, Glacial Shard can be huge in the later turns.
And even freezing a Cube, freezing a Katarina, so they can't kill themselves without a Death Rattle proc effect, it's still, you know, it's still going to help. And it's just a lot of damage no matter which way you look at it.
There is little time.
I do like drawing cards though. That also does draw cards. There we go. I'm not going to argue with that one.
Let the pain speak to me.
Sandbinder going to be picked up from the Manatide now. There is a Play Dead. Suddenly the game changes right now. Their options are available.
Yeah. Poland could have potentially thrown in the 1/1 as well with, I think specifically Wing Blast in mind, because that's a very easy minion for Belgium to kill on the following turn, then discount their Wing Blast, which Wing Blast is a great card right now with the 2 threats that they have on the board.
Does 1 damage to face matter?
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's the main one for me as well. Still pretty awkward though, because there's nothing to aim the cube at for a long time right now. I think this might just be a Houndmaster Shore and go. Because as a 3/6, it's just a good card anyway. And also, just its effect is just a threat on the board without really doing anything or committing too much. If Houndmaster Shore just gets hexed or killed now, that is absolutely fine for Team Belgium.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't, Coin High Main that has Rush is pretty sweet.
It's the fear of this card. It's the Fandral effect, right? Like, I think, you know, a percentage of the time you can leave it up and get away with it. And I think we've seen a lot of players in position where they panic to kill Fandral. And, you know, we could see with Caster Vision that the hand didn't punish them on the other side. But, you know, you don't know that when you're the blind player. So you have to just assume the worst case scenario because there's so many options, even more options potentially with how Master Shaw that punish you enormously.
That's it, is where the potential punish outweighs the chance of them not having it, right? That the trade-off is not good enough to not go for it.
Yes, it's not an equally balanced equation. You know, how often do they have Nourish after Fandral versus how bad is it for me when they do have Nourish after Fandral?
Really bad if you're actually asking me a question. Like, so okay. So this is going to stop the Mana Tide getting cleaned up to just generate even more cards, but does it? Is my question, right? Like, there are enough Okay.
Jeez.
We're getting to spicy turns right now because you can have
all... say we're going to Spicy Town.
I mean, let's go. This starts getting really crazy because, well, one, is there anything for Katrina to even proc right now? Nope. Some decks are playing one Grizzly.
Yeah.
Nope, there are the beasts, so Katrina's just a 6/6 right now.
Okay.
But Cube, play dead, Terra Scale in the same turn, late, like turn 10, if you wanted to. That gets crazy. Poland's defense here has to be perfect to be able to deal with this. Just gonna go for one, just take 2 3/6s.
Yep.
2 more 3/6s in the cube and a 4/6 in the form of the cube itself.
And hey, guess what? Your other minions have Rush.
It's actually a really good play, isn't it? Like,
yep.
You were scared of one Houndmaster. What about 4?
There is the first hex pickup of the game from Poland, though, and these are going to be crucial.
Yeah, right, but this is hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
What, do you hex the cube? You need to do something. Is Earthshock good enough because it's a cube, so you can hex a high main or a King Crush?
Right.
I think that's what it's going to end up leaning towards. Because I don't think you can hex anything on that board without thinking, well, that's going to bite me later on. Literally, as King Crush hits the board. I think this is the deck that's opposite to Big Mage, this Hunter.
Go on.
Big Mage normally contains more removal than you could possibly put out threats, right? That's why it wins. It has so much removal that it just destroys everything. This Hunter puts out way more threats than any reasonable deck has removal. Like I said, like, what do you do here? And this isn't even one of the most powerful turns.
So what happens, Raven, when the irresistible force meets the immovable object?
I'll tell you, because that's the game I lost the other day when I tried it. And, I made too many eggs, and the Mage was like, idiot, you have just 0 3s on the board. I was like, okay, Mage, you win this round. Next time.
This is just so much pressure, though.
Right.
It's so much board leverage coming out from these Houndmasters now. Even though, you know, Rush doesn't feel as aggressive as Charge, and of course it isn't, it still makes your plays quicker. You know, it still means you're dealing with these Saronite chain gangs just on the play rather than, you know, having to trade through with some of your minions that will die off, like Carnivorous Cube. You can just play the high main, just use that to trade instead. Then you're pushing damage to face with one of the minions that's existing on board anyway, which functionally is charge damage. It's damage that you weren't getting to face otherwise.
This is going to reach boiling point pretty quick because the Lightning Storm can clear some of this up, especially if there's a spell damage totem along the line or Pyromancer gets drawn, for example. Excuse me. But there's still plenty more gas in the tank. There's only been one play dead used. There's still Terra Scale. There's still a cube. There's still just 8 damage from hand.
Right.
And you get to the point where it's similar to like the old Freeze Mage scenario. Well, when does Dorito use Healing Rain? Because there's what, 16 power on board? He could just die next turn potentially, but otherwise he healing rings for 7. Like, it's so difficult to work out what to do right now. What did you think of using the healthier Shaw to trade and putting them both at 4 health instead of 1 at 2, 1 at 6?
I think it's fine. I think having it at 4 is entirely reasonable because even then, like it's a Pyro Storm high roll, right? It's a spell damage storm high roll. You're still asking for a lot.
This doesn't even remove that much.
And with Saronite just coming down as a roadblock again, like Poland are just back in the same spot where there's still there is still a Shaw alive on the board.
Yep. This is why Wing Blast is being used right now. It's just so good because all of these minions in your deck, you don't really want to use them to trade. So if you can trade 1 and then attack with 2 instead of trade 3, then that's just a way more value. And again, it's similar to Shaw gives rush, but by giving new minions rush, you let the other minions deal face damage, right? So it still adds up to damage no matter which way it pans out there. There's the Pyro though.
Pyro Hex does take care of the 2 biggest threats on the board right now.
And it's probably as good as it's going to get, I think. Pyro Healing Rain, you just take half that damage you would save by hexing right back in your face.
Yeah.
I wonder.
It's just a matter of whether Poland think just a little bit of greed with the Wild Pyromancer might get them a stronger clear later on, because of course this is an overload turn for them. They're going to have access to much more mana if they wait just 1 more turn, and then potentially they can have a Pyro Hex Healing Rain kind of turn to maybe have a full board clear. But that would you'd end up like using 1 Healing Rain this turn and just kind of passing, tanking the damage straight back, just so you could get a bigger Pyro clear on the following turn. Doesn't really make a great deal of sense when you break it down.
So Team Poland, very afraid of the future and not as concerned with the present right now.
But now there's a Death Rattle being left on board, and if Chinoise was to lose access to his last Death Rattle here, he'd have a very, very dead-looking hand, especially if you're correct in that Katharina not pulling anything out from the deck list.
This is why I'd really like to see, even the Defender of Alex is fine, but these Terror Scales, just make more 2/2s, whatever.
Right.
Like, because it's also a 3/3 on the board too. I think we are going to see that. Play Dead's going to be kept hold of, because there's still a cube, there's still some eggs in there as well.
Sure.
But the Terror Scales are minions in themselves and the most awkward procs to use, so use them while you've got a bit of a floating hand.
The problem is that each of those Terror Scales is 3 minions right now, right? So he doesn't actually have board space.
Wait.
So you could go for 1 and Argus.
Do you just go for Katrina? He doesn't know.
But you'll know as soon as you play it, because nothing will happen. There's no like bluff value, right?
Oh, so he needs to fill the board first.
Sure. Not sure what wacky world you're living in, Raven, but I'm just going to go there with you.
No, yeah, I think what I've done is I've locked myself in on getting Katrina from, say, like, Oozlings, from, like, the recruit list, where it obviously doesn't proc, because it gets recruited to the board. But, yeah, okay. Gotta think about these things. Or at least I have.
Needs answers. Those are not answers right now.
They're questions to find more answers. What's kind of funny here is this was not a particularly powerful draw for this Hunter deck.
It was pretty good.
Right, but you don't normally in the average game plan to draw both high mains, Katrina.
Okay. We'll compromise. It was turned into a very good draw by Belgium recognizing the cubing your own shore play.
Yes.
From that point onwards, they had everything they needed.
The deck is not built to work like this.
Sure. Yeah, and I just...
Oh, yeah.
You just end up hexing the high main, and I just come back to that point where, obviously, again, this is Caster tunneling, perhaps, we can see that it was a handful of Death Rattle activators, but, you know, there had been a Stitch Tracker played and a minion that was picked up that hasn't been used up until this point. So I think you're entitled to expect that there is some Death Rattle synergy in hand, and not denying that high main has really come back to bite Poland in this instance. Crush him!
Gonna really bite them as well. Put them to one. I will say as well,
crushed, kid.
One thing that gets like kind of cool with this deck is when you start being able to play dead build a beast minions that you've just made really weird.
Sure.
It's like it gets like really, you know, like the bloat bat poison combo. You can play dead it to clear the board, and then it's still there.
Yeah.
Especially good versus Hadronox turns.
Yeah.
I don't see a way out, Sol.
What to do?
There's one more draw.
There's nothing of great value in the Shudderwock.
So if the roll is high, the heal keeps him up on board.
Storm, high roll, healing rain, roller taunt totem.
So do you play Pyro instead then? Because you don't have to high roll?
Seems legit.
Because otherwise you're just dead. The second you don't kill the other minions except for Crush, you're dead, right?
So healing rain first, then the Pyro, then the Lightning Storm, totem last, because then you play around Candle Shot as well, with the totem being at 2 HP. But you are only alive sometimes 25% of the time.
Couldn't you have ended his Pyro upon what done too, though?
No. I mean, yes, because he rolled a healing totem. But otherwise, no.
Okay, I need to go back and look at that.
Why?
Well, I thought...
How would you do it?
Could he not have Pyro Storm Healing Rain? No, no, because it goes off after.
Goes off
you're
after
right,
the
you're right.
Yeah.
I'm so silly. Okay, so... Oh, wait, what's in the Shudderwock tank right now?
Not a lot.
There's one Siren Eye, definitely.
He's played 2 Chain Gangs, I think. But not a lot else. 1 Glacial Shard.
1 Life Drinker? Yeah, Life Drinker got played, right? I think it's 1 Life Drinker, okay. I'm wondering if a Shudderwock ever, like, does something weird and gets him out.
Sure.
But now... Not enough, friend. So, Sandbinder, Glacier Shard, Taunt Tome?
Yep, we're back here again. And there is still, I believe, the Grumble Whiff for this Sandbinder as well. Does get the Glacial Shard, though.
Taunt Tome? And that's not going to be good enough unless I'm missing something, Sol.
Davido just throws it over, says Chinoys, you can give the tool. I have one of those with me right now. They were being handed out in Korea.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's going to be a win for Belgium with the Hunter. See how happy Chinoys is. And again, like that deck, I feel like it needs so much more investigation because it is just quite new. The style's very adaptable as well. Like we said, like that is not how that deck plays out generally. That was a very weird game to see 4 Houndmaster Shores kind of on board. And then just like, yeah, high main on 6. High main on 6, on 7. It's like, it just feels like good old mid-range Hunter to me.
Yeah, it's one of the things that you do have to learn about decks like that, though. You know, you have these cards that you kind of put in there for like very specific interactions, and then you kind of win the matchups that can't deal with that, and you lose the ones that can. Then the next level of making that deck actually viable, or pushing it from like a tier 3 deck all the way up to potentially to a tier 1 deck, is what are the weird ways that I can then use those cards just slightly suboptimally to find my way out of sticky situations, whether it be a bad matchup or a bad draw. And I think, yeah, the cube on the Houndmaster Shore there was, you know, particularly inspired because, first of all, you have to understand the interaction and like know that you get the full board clear at the end of the turn when you cube after, which, you know, doesn't immediately occur to everyone. But as I said, Chinoys is a grinder. He's always down to practice matchups. So
and he does actually play a lot of Hunter as well. He is known to be a Hunter player.
So he's probably played more of that deck than anyone not named Zalay, potentially, at this point. So
probably, yeah. I'm just trying to think. Yes.
Okay.
There you go. But that's a good win for Belgium, getting a first point on the board straight away. Now it's going to be Shozy versus Dogmeat. It's going to be Shaman versus the Mage.
This Mage from Poland, very importantly, is aggro Mage, which is crucial being that it's coming up against Shaman.
Yeah, we've seen this before today. We cast this matchup earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't go well for the Mage.
I'd
Went well for the Mage.
rather be the aggro Mage than the control Mage coming up against Shadowwalk Shaman, though.
That is also just true.
Yeah.
Just don't pick Mage.
Yeah, Mage is bad.
Mage hasn't been doing that well today, right? I mean, I can only 100% say for the games we've cast.
Yeah.
But yes, it's not been doing bad, or yes, it has.
Well, aggro Mage has suffered. There was the Jaina, like play Jaina on 9, die immediately game against the Quest Warrior. So from what we've seen, it's definitely suffered.
Okay. Just let Mage get banned. Is the plan for
Let Mage get banned. Let the opponent ban your bad deck. I'm not sure that's how it works.
I told you, Elemental Mage next week, calling it Mountain Giants everywhere.
Throw a self-ban in there. Charles Watson somewhere will be super happy right now.
Yeah, he probably will. But yeah, we could check out, I think the players are just getting ready for their match. But yeah, there's not much else to look at there. The aggro Mage, although is better, we saw it earlier where he had all the minion opening, then the spells, and it just wasn't enough because of Healing Rain that wasn't counterspelled, basically. And you know, the chunky minions and removal in between. But I actually don't even think Volcano was cast that game.
It was. I think there was a Coin Volcano that came out on turn 4 against like a Armani Berserker Kirantor Mage kind of board, potentially.
Okay.
And then it was Farsight follow-up. I remember talking about that, whether it happened
We definitely
or not,
talked about Volcano being in hand.
But yeah, it was a very strong draw in terms of like minions into spells in the right order. But I remember saying right at the start of that matchup that the one key for the aggro Mage, if they're going to get there, is landing a big mana worm. Right. Because it's the one thing that's very difficult to interact with. And that was like the missing piece from the Mage side.
So mana worm is the Jaina of control
Yeah, mana worm is the OG Mage Frostlich Jaina. You just have to draw it immediately. You don't have 9 turns to wait.
Yeah, you just have to mulligan for it and get it. Unlike you mulligan for it and try and get it for control Mage, but you know, you still have a few turns until it's needed. But you see the players just getting ready there, and I believe they're about to go into their game. But what have you made of the overall strategy of this team? Has anything really stuck out in terms of bans, of picks, not necessarily order, but just the actual classes, makeup, and bands?
Of these teams in particular, or what we've seen throughout the tournament?
That we've seen throughout the tournament.
I think we've seen basically 2 strategies evolve, which is one, just teams trying to engineer like the best decks that they can out of their lineup, and then the only other, I think, like consistent strat that's come out is kind of the anti-aggro strat, where they're just trying to leave up, you know, aggro decks from the opponent. And just expecting that there are enough total aggressive lists in the opponent's decks that they have to pick a good chunk of them going through. But honestly, I think potentially this second stage where, you know, essentially the order is randomized does make it a little bit difficult to build a coherent strategy throughout that pick ban phase. Yeah,
I think a lot of it is what do you feel like leaving up, and is there, you know, you need to have, I'd say the difficulty for me, and I'm probably wrong, is that how many decks, say you leave Mali Druid up, how many decks that you plan to have left can beat Mali Druid, right? Yeah, if you're leaving it up, it's getting picked.
If it's more than one, you've done something spectacular with your lineup.
Right, but then you look at that for, well, if you leave an even lockup, well, how many again? And I think that's what you kind of have to do, because if you're like 1 or less, then you've done something wrong, right? You're in trouble, something's happened. Whereas if you know 1 or more, like you look at, say, a couple of decks have a decent chance, then you're just naturally going to have a bit of an edge when it comes to just the ordering of the bands, of the picks, sorry.
Yeah, and I think you do just end up having to pretty much play the averages, play the percentages.
Exactly, yeah. Right? Like, there's not much else you can do.
Yeah, which is, you know, essentially Hearthstone in a nutshell. You know, sometimes if you play the averages for long enough, you get your insane winning streak off the end of it, as we're seeing from a lot of players right now, honestly. I think the metagame right now is particularly stable in the sense that, you know, good players seem to be outplaying bad players with overwhelming consistency right now.
Yeah, you look at the amount of games, especially, you know, if you check out Lorenda's Twitter, he posts them quite often, is, you know, the amount of multiple games over multiple tour stops, and these players are at like 70+% win rate, and it's just absurd. But that's enough from us. Not talking about this game, we're into it right now. We see the Murmuring Elemental, pretty key card in the deck for Shozi. Maybe not specifically in this matchup though, and Dogmeat does have a lot of the early aggro tools actually. Sorcerer's Apprentice, Arcanologist, always just a decent card, but how much do you need that Mana Worm Soul?
Oh, you need it a lot, Raven.
4 cards a lot, 3 cards a lot, 2 cards a lot, or 1 card a lot?
How many are you throwing away?
How many you keep?
I
don't mind.
I think Arcanologist is just too insane to throw away in your opening hand because it keeps too much synergy. Sorcerer's Apprentice would be a question mark, but Arcanologist opens up so many of the other explosive potential draws, right? Like if you hit Kirin Tormage, as he did, suddenly you do have at least a pretty aggressive curve starting on turn 2. And the spells can be quite destructive. You know, if you get ahead of your opponent with an explosive runes, suddenly, you know, Manatide Totem and Acolyte of Pain are very difficult for them to drop on the board, although that's more an exchange that happens when you're going first in the matchup. But even then, dealing with 50% of your opponent's Saronite Chain Gang and pushing some damage.
Honestly, I was just about to say the difference between having to deal with 1, 2, 3 or 2, 2, 3 taunts is huge. Same with even if a life drink comes down, right?
Yeah,
like the 3/3 you still have to deal with, right? But then you just negate the heal.
Right.
And the 3/3 disappears.
Yeah, heaven forbid they spend 4 mana dropping a 3/3 into a secret that you played for 0.
Yeah, that's big
horrible
turn. Because the turn just didn't exist, right? They just discarded a card.
Yep.
And, well, they played a card to remove your secret.
Yeah.
That's literally the whole turn, which is like, oh, okay, I'll take those.
And they dealt 3 damage to you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a really good turn, isn't it?
If you want to get really technical.
And you know I do, so.
It's your favorite thing in the whole wide world.
You know, we spend a lot of time together over the years, and I don't think I've ever said, so I want to get really technical to you about Hearthstone.
You've said you want to do lots of other things with me, but not get technical. Get freaky.
I was just going to say, like, be friends.
No, definitely not.
Oh, it's not happened. I said I've asked.
Right.
And you said no.
Sure.
Go back over there, Raven.
You are still a long way even outside the friend zone, Raven.
Used to it. It's fine. It's been years and I can wait. Well, since it's getting very, very strange right now.
Raven just stands outside my hotel room at night just holding up a boombox, playing romantic ballads into my window.
Yeah, it's just annoying when his window's shut. Headphones on. Okay, so Farsight. Well, remember what we were talking about earlier? About Farsight versus Manatide?
So Lorinda and Falcone were, I think Lorinda specifically called out that he liked seeing Farsight being kept more now, and I disagreed with that call, particularly in the matchup that it was in. I think it was Evenlock that was being played against, where I don't keep Farsight in that matchup just because getting an Acolyte of Pain or a Manatide Totem is just much, much more powerful in the matchup, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's what we were talking about.
No, yeah,
you asked to be reminded.
Yeah, it's going to sound bad because I agree with you quite often, but I do think it's just like 3 mana draw a card a lot of the time, right? Like that Healing Rain, although is 0 mana, isn't going to be played for a few turns yet, and it's going to be great in this specific instance because it was Healing Rain. But in a different matchup, right?
Yeah.
Do you just hold Healing Rain then for like 7 turns? And yeah, it's cool that it's 0, but you know, Manatide, Acolyte, those are cards that actually just cycle you through your deck instead of getting you 1 powerful draw.
Well, interestingly, in this matchup, I think Farsight might even potentially be a better card than Manatide Totem, because in what world are you playing Manatide Totem in this matchup and it's sticking to the board ever, right? The reason why I don't like keeping Farsight in matches like even Warlock is because you're actually developing ahead of them while they just life tap away, and you get to play out your Acolyte or your Manatide Totem, and it has a chance of sticking to the board or disrupting their giant turn in the way it lines up. So in these kind of matchups, I actually think Farsight is a more valuable card because you can hit those crazy high rolls, right? You can get the discounted Lightning Storm, the discounted Volcano, the discounted Shudderwalk, the discounted Grumble, whatever it is. Yeah, exactly.
But speaking of Saronite, though, we did just see the interaction we discussed a little bit earlier where the Saronite Chain Gang is great because it's multiple minions, and now it's not. Yeah, it's just dead. So now there's just 1, 2, 3, which makes the turn a lot more powerful, in my opinion. I don't think there's any point playing the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Time runs out on me.
You make an incredibly aggressive board with a counterspell behind it all if you just like drop the counterspell right now.
Yeah. Oh, I want to drop the counterspell.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I don't think you need to play.
No, I'm saying that's further argument that I don't like playing the Apprentice.
Okay. I thought you were saying you play the Apprentice and play the counterspell. I was like,
you can't do that. mean, the Volcano is more important. If one of those two was going to get counterspelled, we'd rather it was the 0 mana healing rain. There's no point like dropping your healing rain there if your Volcano is going to be the card that gets counterspelled and you can just never remove that board state. It's going to deal more than the 12 back to you very quickly.
Now there's Mana Worm, Life Drinker follow-up. Maybe Mana Worm Apprentice is better because the Life Drink is still just 3 out of hand, whereas the Apprentice does the same attack as the Life Drinker.
Sure.
So.
What to do? What to do?
Wait, hang on. Arcane Missiles is coming down this turn, right? In all honesty?
Why?
Why not? What if he plays a minion next turn?
Because, well, if he plays a minion next turn, you've front-loaded a Mana Worm and a Life Drinker, which deal more damage than the Arcane Missiles would have done anyway, right? If he's playing a minion, he's only got 4 mana next turn, so he's not playing a minion and removing your minions.
But
next turn, you can just Sorcerer's Apprentice Fireball Arcane Missiles anyway, and if it's more damage to clear that minion, then you clear the minion and just get the Arcane Missiles
the mana
to hit
cost
face.
difference. Okay. I'm just thinking like you just don't want the missiles to hit not face, right? It's 3 damage that you definitely want to face in this game.
Sure. I personally favor the Mana Worm Life Drinker play.
I do see your point because now your 2 cards in hand cannot be played next turn together.
Correct.
So then it's a 2-turn setup. Maybe Poland don't feel they necessarily need it. They've seen 1 healing rain go. But I guess it's odd to think that there's nothing Belgium can do. They've already played 1 Saronite though. And they've still got 2/3 of their deck left. They've seen 1 Volcano. Your opponent's overloaded.
I'm still not seeing a reason why you don't want a 3/3 on board instead of a 3/2 and have 3 castable cards in your hand that add up to potential lethal on the following turn.
We'd have 2, right? Wait.
No, you'd have Apprentice Fireball Missiles.
Oh, yeah. They have the missiles. Okay. Yeah, no, you know what? You convinced me.
Turns out with that Frostbolt draw, that Saronite Chain Gang off the top was the one specific answer that Belgium needed to stay alive, but they're still a long way away. I mean, it's 2 turns in reality, but it feels like a mile away.
When they know they've already used so many of their good cards right now.
Exactly.
And they need to buy 1 turn to get to Hagatha, so this might just be 1 turn too quickly for Belgium to deal with right now. Like, what draw is this actually? Like, what draw even does something here? The heal can go back up to 9. You can kill off the Mana Worm now, but that's just... You don't often feel safe on 9 health, so...
No. This, from Belgium's perspective, can keep them alive with this hand, Earthshock Life Drinker. But any damage from hand is going to end the game from that spot.
Yeah, but also I think they just have to make that play because there's not any other play that remotely even looks close, right?
Yeah, it's the only play that even keeps them alive on board. So.
That's what I'm saying, that there's literally nothing else to do right now.
Yep.
So they're going to do it. But Dogmeat and Team Poland have the Fireball locked, loaded, and ready to go. And another... That was a good couple of turns of draw there. Just burn, burn, burn.
And they're having, of course, the very important discussion about whether they use the top deck to tilt the opponent or not. Decide not to. Throw out the Fireball. Belgium give over the smiles, and Poland are squaring up the series, and somewhere in a distant back room, I hear faint cheering. I've totally made that up, but I'm sure they are very happy.
Yeah, and it's not that distant, so that would also be made up. It's literally, I can see it. But yeah, they're going to even it up 1-1 for these players right now, and it's kind of weird just seeing that deck get work done, you know? Like, that counterspell was absolutely huge. Same for the runes, actually. Secrets are good.
Secrets are good, especially when you play them for free with a Kirin Tor Mage. Arcanologist is still a phenomenal card, and I think maybe that does get undervalued with, of course, all the talk of how strong Mana Worm on 1 is. Arcanologist on 2 is the perfect follow-up for that. It's also the perfect compensation when you didn't get the Mana Worm in the first place, because the Arcanologist Kirin Tor draw is just as powerful as Mana Worm in isolation.
And who knows as well, with like a Boomsday project, we could just... not unlikely at all to see more Mage secrets. So, yeah. So there might be a new crazy Mage secret to play, but we've got more crazy games to play out instead. And Oliek on the Warlock is going to be going up against A83650 on the Warrior. And this is, again, like, this is just one of those matchups. I feel like I'm oversimplifying this, but I just feel like the Warlock just wants to get the Mountain Giant and hope the Warrior can't kill it. And I feel like I say that far too much about even luck, but it genuinely is the plan. It really is.
I've got a slight issue with that, Raven. It's Zoo.
Oh, great. Okay. No, that's fantastic. I played a good chunk of Zoo. I actually just thought it was even luck. I'm getting so locked in to loads of people bringing the same list, especially for week 1. I think a lot of people played it safe, and I didn't actually call that it was Zoo. Okay, so we're gonna have a Zoo match and not an even luck match coming up for you, but which players are just gonna get ready now and sort the match and get it ready for you guys. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Hearthstone Global Games. It's Belgium versus Poland, and it's all even at 1-1. And next up, we've got the Heal Zoo Warlock. And this isn't your favourite deck in the world, is it, Zol?
Wait, why? Hang on.
Oh, I didn't think you liked it.
Why are you tarring me with the anti-zoo brush?
Well, that's the thing. You're not calling it Zoo.
I didn't say that.
What? We had a conversation about, oh, it's more mid-range, it's not
Right,
Zoo.
but no, okay. My point was
Don't try and pretend I'm making up
no.
conversation.
What I said was that if Shield Bearer Abusive Sergeant was Zoo and Void Caller Mal'Ganis was Zoo, then yeah, you can go ahead and call this Zoo. Like the point is that Zoo has been applied to very different things throughout the ages.
Tempo Mage.
Yeah, right, yeah. But, you know, Zoo in the essence was just a very, very low curve deck with a ton of buffs that could almost play value with other decks by trading up into things. Zoo now doesn't really have that buff potential, so it's kind of just solid statted minions trying to have big blowout turns early and be too aggressive for the opponent. I think it's a markedly different strategy from what Zoo was in the old days. That's all I'm saying.
Then I'll allow it. I will say, I think the core strength of why this deck stuck around instead of being a bit of a flash in the pan is that the minions have awkward amounts of health that people are not used to dealing with. And because of the heal, it keeps those health at awkward totals. Like, dealing 3 to multiple minions outside of Hellfire is actually relatively hard, right? Unless we're talking big mage. But it's like, that's pretty hard. And then if you set up turns...
I feel like 3 is quite an easy number to do, personally.
Over multiple minions.
You mentioned Hellfire, Duskbreaker, and then obviously everything in Big Spell Mage.
It's like 3 decks.
Yeah, but that's like...
It's like 9 decks. Well, there's 9 classes.
That's like, okay, Warpath for 6 mana. That's the 4 decks that play control, and all of them can deal 3 damage quite easily. Right,
but when you look at things like Primordial Drake, so some of the more neutral removal and things to deal with them, like look at Druid, I think especially, does have an awkward way of dealing with these minions because you can't set up a swipe if you put everything to 1 and then they heal it all again.
Sure.
So I think keeping the minions' health high is why this sort of heal gimmick is working right now, because everyone always gets to the point where they make their answers so precise to what the meta is, and then suddenly there's a deck that just makes tons of like 3 health and 4 health minions that you're not really used to dealing with.
Okay.
But this will be a harder one, don't get me wrong. This is Warrior, and Warrior's built to remove minions right now, so it's going to be a little bit trickier, and there's not the explosive opening turn that you can have, or the opening turn 1 or 2. I will say, though, I'm a fan of keeping Happy Ghoul in the opening hand every time. I almost like full mulligan for it a lot of the time in this deck.
You do see A83650 taking control of the sticks for the first time here, of course, off his successful Summer Championship run. And a run that he really garnered a lot of respect for. I was surprised when I saw how much of an outpouring there was from the pro community at large, not just, you know, the Polish community and the surrounding area for A8, but from the community at large. So many people came out of the woodwork and said, oh, you know, I've known he's a great player for so long. And I personally, you know, didn't realize he was a player that had that much respect from that many people for his standard of play.
Yeah, I think the online cup grinding for the past 2 years is probably where he's met a lot of these players, you know, in the cups themselves or outside of them. So
sure.
I think that's it's definitely pretty good, as he's normally been placing pretty well in those over the past few years. Is this going to be coin Happy Ghoul? Okay, no, I was like, wait. Tar Creeper just doesn't really do the job you want it to do, or the job it's in the deck for against Warrior. The removal kind of happens regardless of Tar Creeper a lot of the time, whereas normally, for example, in the mirror match, whoever has Tar Creeper just stops their opponent playing the game for a couple of turns.
Right, or against like an odd Paladin or an odd Rogue, for example, where they don't just get to pick and choose where to send their 1/1s or when to send their dagger. Like, they don't just dominate the early game as they would otherwise.
It's also one of the reasons in the mirror, for example, you keep Soulfire as well, because you just need to kill it somehow. But we see the Phantom Militia play for 1. That may be the first time, and I'm not even exaggerating, I've ever seen.
Really?
I'm not even joking or like making it up. I genuinely have never seen it, because no one mulligans for it.
No, obviously.
And I've not seen. There's not that many aggro decks in the game that are board focused right now, so you just don't see this interaction often. It's kind of funny because it feels wrong, but it just isn't.
Yeah, with the second one in hand in particular, because, you know, Zoo with life tap and with a big pile of, you know, mid-range minions is not a deck that you want to be too liberal with your cards against, because then it will just potentially switch to outvaluing you later on, especially because Quest Warrior, if it doesn't finish its quest, can run out of value very quickly. It's a very, very low value deck when you actually break it down in terms of, you know, what each card does. So being too liberal with a card like Phantom Militia could come back to bite you, but with the second one in hand already, like A8 just feels comfortable that if he doesn't die, the quest will get dealt with at some point in reasonably.
If you see value as a mana curve, Warrior goes up to 5 mana, but then the quest completion weapon is like 15 mana, right? In terms of the value of the deck overall. Sound like Chain Gang is a nice pickup as well. One, just to play taunts on curve, but also it's just multiple minions that get that little bit harder to deal with, especially with Blood Razor. I was talking a lot about 3 health for the Warlock and 2 attack on a taunt minion that gets traded into, plus a swing of, you know, the effect of Blood Razor can really help play some minions.
I wonder.
What do you think? Blood Razor is just worth it now?
I was just about to come back here and say it's a real spicy looking Blood Razor immediately. Just those 2/2/1s in play.
Spicy Land?
It's from Spicy Land, yeah.
Oh, that'd be my worst nightmare.
And A8 seems quite insistent about something, and the Blood Razor does end up getting played. I don't know whether there was a bit of an overruling coming into play there from A8.
You know what I'd love? If there's just to hear the moments where it's like, no, I think you go for Silent Night Chain. I'm being A8's teammate, by the way.
Okay.
I think you go with, Silent Night Chain Gang is the way, and then...
No, Blood Razor!
No, other 2 teammates. Yeah, definitely Silent Night Chain Gang. No. Click. It's like Blood Razor go. It's definitely something I imagine has happened more than once in global games history.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. But again, it comes back to, how much control does the pilot have? Why have you trusted each individual person with each individual deck? Is it for the reasons that they have the authority to overrule the other players?
Or no one else just wanted to play that deck?
Right.
And this is what I was talking about, right? It gets a bit tricky. In normal world, you play Silent Chain Gang, 2 3/3s, attack into Chain Gang to clear them. That makes sense. Warlock doesn't have other removal unless they want to double Soulfire. And then you swing your weapon on the other one and clear all 3 next turn. What if they have heal? You just can't. It's really bad. And in Spicy World, they always do. It's definitely a hard call, though. This is what... Imagine you play that, and Chain Gang effectively just is a speed bump for a turn when you should have been able to clear the board. That is a big difference in power level.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that's where, again, when we had this, we've had this discussion multiple times about the evolution of Zoo, but, it's one of the counterpoints that you brought up that essentially you're using the heals in this deck as your delayed buffs. So you can't trade up into a minion like you can with Abusive Sergeant or Power Overwhelming, but you can take a value trade and then reset the health on your minion, which functions quite similarly to a buff, just kind of a turn delayed.
Yeah, and I think the one thing we can also agree on is Zoo and value. I think those always go together no matter which way you look at it in every iteration.
Yeah, I mean, anything that has the life tap hero power, you always have the opportunity to outvalue your opponent, whether you're playing a control deck or an aggressively curved mid-range deck like Zoo. You just get to draw so many cards that even if it's just a swarm of 1 to 3 drops, you can eventually just overwhelm your opponent in value.
This is very nice as well. I was going to say, it's actually pretty unfortunate for Belgium that they have drawn 0 healing cards so far. They are relatively deep in the deck, nearly
Board
halfway.
heals. They did have the Life Drinker to activate both Happy Ghouls, which is why we're here in the first place.
Aimed heals for minions, minion heals, should I say. Because even Voodoo Doctor would be nice, right?
Sure.
It's not necessarily just a fungal dude, but like... that's pretty unfortunate. Nearly halfway through the deck, you've not drawn 1. But the Void Ripper got some work done. There aren't really that any minions you want to flip or rip in Warrior. Like, it doesn't, unless they Stonehill a big taunt, like a Primordial Drake.
But I mean, even like a 2/4 taunt, for example, like flipping a board full of Phantom Militias from 2/4s to 4/2s just become much easier to trade through. Like it might be the difference between a lethal push and not. In that situation. Just generally, taunt minions in general are quite good to flip if you're trying to push that final point of damage. Casper, or A8, sorry, still choosing to keep developing here, just going through the curve of taunt minions. He's had a couple of turns already where he could have just committed Dry Whisker Armorers just to really just get some 2/2s on board and get a huge boost of armor that can potentially buy him 1 or 2 turns. But he has kept focusing as much as possible on this taunt curve.
2 of those minions can become 3/5s next turn. I will say I wasn't 100% expecting a live tap right there. I was looking at just Soulfire 2-4.
So many possibilities.
And playing a 4-drop along with one of those. But the Soulfire, I agree. You really want to trade like 2 minions in just to kill a 2-4 when you have 1 mana spell that deals with it instead.
And this kind of turn is exactly where you see the like change of style in play, right? Because if this hand was filled with Defender of Argus, Dark Iron Dwarf, Abusive Sergeant type cards, this was a trivial turn. You eat that board alive and you have a massive board at the end of the turn and probably still 4 to 5 cards in hand at the end. Because the hand, you know, Saronite Chain Gang, just a straight up pile of stats. Life Drinker, just a kind of weird, mediocre card thrown in there because...
To be honest, it's Soulfire 3 and 4.
Right, yeah, exactly. Because it does a little bit of damage that you want sometimes. It does a little bit of healing that you want sometimes to activate the Happy Ghouls and so on. And, you know, because those kind of cards are in there, dealing with just, you know, annoying minions that are in the way that are 1 to 2 damage out of range of what you have in play is just much more irritating than it used to be.
Yeah, but then we saw the kind of upside down version of the deck that it is now, where actually the Void Ripper got a good trade in and then got healed up, so it's back fresh again. So it's like Stranger Things.
Sure.
That's kind of like the theme, isn't it? As much as I can.
Almost.
Yeah, as much as I can do that off the cuff.
You had a go, and that's what counts.
That was mean. So now that
it has to be the double armor return, right? Especially with the Acolyte draw, like this is just an absurd turn.
Yeah, with the all combined with obviously the second swing of the weapon, it's just
gain 20, draw a card, take a huge bite out of your opponent's board state, and yes, you can see how good that turn is based on Belgium's reaction here.
That turn, I feel, had to be good as well, because one more turn of pressure like that from Belgium, and I think Poland might have broke, because if we look at the hand, yes, Garrosh is a good card, right? But you take damage through trading with the weapon, and then there was not any real level of card draw outside of the Acolyte. There's a Slam Show 1, but then you're just rocking 2 cards a turn against Zoo.
So many possibilities.
And now the problem is the Fungalmancer turn is not pretty against Scourgelord Garrosh in any way. It just lines up so miserably for you.
Can you play around that? At this
you
point,
can
you physically
extent,
can, but
yes,
at this point,
with Voidwalker positioning, you can make it less bad for you than it would be otherwise. But it's not a huge difference.
So would you
shut your eyes and pretend Scourgelord Garrosh isn't there? Yeah, probably.
Would you ever Voidwalker on the left, Fungalmancer between the left and the middle, save the 3? So he has to hit the buffed Voidwalker so he takes some damage. And then only the 2/2 dies. I think that was the best way to do that if you were going to play the Fungalmancer. It feels bad because you don't get any actual live damage from one of them, but I think it's the...
As it turns out, it was a very good Dreadlord turn as well, the way things lined up. So I definitely can't fault Belgium for going up against this. It's definitely a play that gets blown out by less things. I think the Fungalmancer turn has some upside if you don't run into specifically Scourgelord Garrosh, but this is a pretty stable play against anything your opponent can
The
come out
upside
with.
being you get to play Fungalmancer, because a lot of the time, well, you can play Dreadlord any turn, it does the same thing, but...
Well, it killed 2/2/1s that turn, which it doesn't do every turn that you're going to play it.
I will say, every time Dreadlord dips out of meta, I do forget how just absurdly powerful dealing 1 damage at the end of every single turn is. The minions have -1 health all of the time. This is insane. But this is just...
This looks like a body language GG coming out from A8 right now. He made the turn, he cleared the board, he equipped a weapon, he's still at 29, and then he just kind of gave just a little shrug and then leant forward, took a sip of the water. Seemed like one of those relaxed attitudes of a player that feels like that was the turn that just kind of locked up the game.
Yeah, I feel like he leant forward, took a drink, and then when he went back, he was like 45 degrees more horizontal.
Sure.
How long can this go on? How long can this go on?
Continues to be good positioning from Belgium, though. They did still play around Garrosh in mind on the previous turn, even though they went with the line of play with the Dreadlord. And again, the Life Drinker in the middle here is spot on.
Can't argue with with polished play.
Or Polish to play, in this case. No?
I feel like that's one you've had since last year and you've just been waiting.
No, not even. I'll just show myself out because it was also generally terrible. I don't know why I'm even trying to defend it.
Because you can't conceive a world in which you said something that wasn't funny. Is that why?
No.
Okay. Fungomancer gets some value right now, as it does mean at least you kill one Tar Creeper, and notoriously difficult minion to kill for any sort of small minion-based board without power overwhelming.
Yeah, but now Olex just lost the board.
Oh, I'm not saying it's going to do
Belgium
much.
are fighting from behind into 2 Tar Creepers, into a quest that's 1 tick off being completed,
Oh.
and in next turn, yeah, into a potential Scourge Lord Garrosh that's going to come down as well and just start chopping enormous chunks of health out of his board state. It's not looking great, Raven.
Your magic shall not save.
I agree, it's not. Like, now I think Team Poland can actually just kill every single minion that's left in the deck. I think they've crossed the line.
Very possible. Very, very possible.
And I'm including quest weapon swings, so, you know,
Yeah.
like and hero powers and such. I don't. There's one Dreadlord. All the bad healing cards right now, because they're not going to be good enough.
Fungal Enchanters and
Enchanters,
stuff. Yeah.
the one drops.
One Voodoo Doctor.
Yeah. They're just all the bad cards, right? Because there was no heal drawn early on.
But I think before it even gets to that point, that Stonehill Defender is now taunt number 7 for Poland, so it's very unlikely to get to that position. They can, at any point where there is even a whiff of a weak turn from Belgium, they can flip the switch and just start being aggressive.
Yeah, and when we see, you know, you mentioned the defender procs the quest, but you want to normally get Garrosh down first, right?
Yep.
So this is not a surprise whatsoever. You see the power of the weapon, especially versus a deck like Zoo, and then we'll more than likely see the Stonehill Defender next turn to activate the new hero power once again, but the weapon sticks around.
Yep. And I've got to give credit where credit's due, because I pointed out there was a couple of turns that looked like potential Dry Whisker turns for the Quest Warrior, where it would have been a total gain of 12 in one case or 16, I think, in the other. Poland and A8 just kept waiting.
Got
They
20.
ended up gaining 20 exactly, and that's a huge reason why their total health is so stable right now, and why they can just now give up their armor gain and just start swinging into minions every turn.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think there are actually... There's enough minions, but not enough threats left in the deck.
Right,
for,
that's a good way of putting it.
A8365-0 to actually worry about, right? It just, I mean, the hero power deals with some of them. This hero power, not the new one.
Yeah.
Again, Dreadlord probably just the best draw at that point, just so he can make this power turn. But this is the last push. There's this works on nothing right now. And the issue is there's 4 damage going on to all these minions, while Poland only need to take 2 damage in return, because you cannot beat the weapon with Fungomancer.
Time passes.
I'm surprised these turns aren't going a little bit quicker for Team Poland. I don't think there's too much to consider.
Like I was saying in the previous series, I think when you get 4 powerful Hearthstone brains in near vicinity, they will always find something to consider. How often even do we as casters get into a position where the game's 100% won, and that's when the biggest argument happens between 2 different lines
How
of
can we
play.
gain 0.00001%?
This is the point where everyone's little Hearthstone brain perks up, because all the pressure's off, right? You know you can throw out the most ridiculous theory, the most nonsense out for your opponent, and it's not going to be damaging because you're in a 100% won scenario.
Yeah. Stagger then. Doesn't really matter. Fungomancer into Soulfire will mean that obviously nothing gets discarded, but that also just doesn't look like Kaliseth.
Oh yeah, there's that guy still in the deck as well.
Another minion, not important whatsoever. And I think, yeah, you see Olex just like shaking his head, raise his hand, and be like, haha, but I don't really know what I'm supposed to do right now, because there's just not enough damage left in the deck. This is one of the reasons as well we've been seeing teams bring Doomguard in these zoo lists, because those are single card threats. These are, you don't need heals, you don't need combo setups, you don't need minions on board to activate them. Drop a Doomguard on someone's face and it's going to hurt no matter which way you look.
It's something that's a little curious to me because, you know, the original builds of Zoo didn't play any cards that were more expensive than 5 mana. So the idea was that you played every single cheap card in your hand, and then when you hit the top of your curve that was 5, you had a Doomguard in your hand that didn't discard anything important because it was the top of your curve and you played everything else already. Then, as the deck got greedier and greedier and greedier and greedier, there was, you know, Dr. Booms and then Lich Kings and then Bone Mares and all of these expensive cards. Blood Reaver Gul'dan even went into the deck at one point. When all of those cards were in there...
Was that your favorite version?
Shut up. People were still playing Doomguards. Now we have a version that's back down to curving out at 5, so all of those original things I said were true again. No Doomguards.
Well, some people have Doomguards, but yeah. Light Warden. Power play.
Time to make the biggest of plays.
There we go.
Tap
It's the
concede. Yeah.
The removal was just too much, and again, the Taunt Warrior, Quest Warrior, whatever you want to call it, is specialized in removing onboard pressure, right? It kills minions. That's what the deck does, especially when they're kind of small too. You don't need those executes to beat Zoo. There's nothing big enough. You're not trying to take down giants. It's You're just trying to just clear the smaller minions on the board, and it's what the deck excelled at. And you saw then there was just a turn where it's like, right, we wiped it enough, and now there's just no clawing back.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we had the little debate about whether 3 is a good number or not against the cards that come out, but we saw, of course, the Prince Keleseth come too late. And I think that is really, against control decks, that is the card that really makes your deck tick, because you will not get any dispute from me that 4 is an incredible number to come down, because suddenly every minion in your deck resists Dustbreaker, it resists...
and then you heal it again.
Yeah, exactly,
So...
and then you're pulling it back up again, and, you know, a 2-turn Blood Razor setup against it just doesn't work for that healing reason, as you said. So, yeah, it was just unfortunate, because there was a very explosive turn on turn 4 with the Life Drinker and the double Happy Ghoul, but after that, the deck just kind of ran out of steam again. And again, you know, I don't want to harp on about it too much. There's just a couple of those turns where it just felt like the deck needed a Defender of Argus or an Abusive Sergeant. I'm not suggesting that you play 1/1 Abusive Sergeant, but cards of that style, that's what really made Zoo function. You tapped, you drew a card that impacted the board straight away, very consistently. You did that over and over again. That's how the deck worked. And these new builds of Zoo just kind of are pulling away from that a little bit.
Yes, so I want you to play 1 single Abusive Sergeant and 1 single Defender of Argus into the deck. But, you know, we've got plenty of more tips from Sol throughout the day.
I hate
But that is Poland going 2-1 versus Belgium. There is still one more game they need to win if they want to take it home and please everyone in the studio here. But we're just going to get the games ready, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. It's going to be Tutek playing next for Poland, and all the pressure is on him as the pilot. As if he wins this game, he's going to take Poland to victory there. It's going to be 3-1 over Belgium, but there's still this last match to play, or last game to play, sorry, if Poland do take it. Excited to see this one. It's going to be Maverick in control, though, an extremely experienced player. I feel like I've known about Maverick since I've known about Hearthstone.
Sorry, got distracted by cute doggo plushies. Is that where you think the pressure lies, though? Because from my perspective, there's actually more pressure on Maverick in this position because he's the one that can't lose. He has to
there's
clutch
still,
out the
yeah,
win.
there's still pressure. I just think that any time you're at match point, it's like, well, yeah, just finish. You know, just get it done. We just want to win. We don't want to then lose another game and then go, okay, there's one more game now, and that game we have to win, right? The pressure's on to not put yourself in a pressurized scenario.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like when you step up for the second to last penalty, right? The one that has to make them score at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. Or it's like, it's just an awkward point where if you've got, like you said, second to last, you could just finish it all right now. So there's still a level of pressure. The first game, it's like, it's first game. Whatever. We'll be fine. But let's get into it. It's going to be the Paladin versus the Mage. And I've seen some conversations on this. I think it's one of your levels of HS replay or levels of Hunter Ace, for example, on how you look at win rates across play levels.
Yeah.
Because I spoke to a few people before and they're like, oh, how do you even win as Paladin versus the Mage? Because I think Mage has connotations of so much AoE removal and Paladin makes loads of stuff. Well, yeah, Mage wins, right? And I personally
But
believe
they
that
make infinite stuff, right?
Right, exactly. And I've said, like, well, actually, how do you lose is my question. It's definitely losable, but you can create threats that don't exist. Right? Like, you just press hero power, and it's a threat because you might have a card that pressures them.
So let's take a journey down memory lane. I think it was the
How far?
Quest Warrior, about 5 to 6 hours.
Oh, I thought we were going to be like childhood or something. I was like,
yeah, when we were growing up together.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
In some weird hybrid area of two ends of the country that are nowhere near each other.
Sounds like a completely feasible fanfic.
Yeah. I think it was Quest Warrior in particular in this matchup where I referred to it, where I said what the aggro decks try to do against Jaina Mage is that they try to develop a board on turn 8 where they can't play Jaina or they're dead. Then they try and do it again on turn 9, again on turn 10, again on turn 11. And the more turns you can do that, the higher chance you have of beating the Jaina draw for Maverick. By the way, we've already failed the cast a big spell Mage without saying Jaina.
I didn't say it.
I know, but I just said it like 3 times.
Well, so all I've heard there is you failed.
We're a team, Raven.
Oh, that's like the first time you've ever said
we
that.
go down together. I've taken the blame for every dumb thing you've ever said in the past. That's
No, you've not. You've pointed out every dumb thing I've ever said in the past. There's a vital difference in that sentence.
That is definitely true.
There you go.
Yeah. So Paladin has the ability to do that. But the problem is, I think why a lot of Paladins will lose this matchup is they'll commit level up in situations where it's not necessarily game ending. Right. And once you start committing level up, committing Fungal Mancer, and they don't put the Mage under pressure where they're just immediately dead the next turn, suddenly they can relax a little bit because you're not implying that threat every single turn. Like, the longer you go without playing level up, the more often they then have to AoE just a board of 1/1s that aren't doing anything because of that implied threat. And on the counter side from the Mage, you have to try and engineer positions where you're making the Paladin play the level up and you're happy with it. You survive it and then you AoE those 3/3s away.
That's pretty hard, actually.
It is quite difficult, yeah.
I will say as well, Purify is more the Divine Shield one, if you want me to translate into Friends episodes, is very powerful as well. Mage doesn't often have multi-turned AoE outside of like Blizzard the Divine Shields, then clear them, which is again like 2 full AoEs for 1 board state because you got a 3 mana weapon. You know, it's an extremely powerful draw.
So the press the button alarm has gone off again, Raven. Turn 2 passed, and it was Akaras Veteran into Lost in the Jungle, which was the most powerful play you could make on that turn. Absolutely no argument with that. But then the problem comes over time, in theory, with card economy, right? Where you've just committed 2 cards to make a similar board state to what you could have made by committing 0. Then your ability on turn 9, turn 10, turn 11 to threaten those Jaina boards really diminishes. However, what makes it different and perhaps excusable in this situation is that Poland are staring at a divine favor. So their card economy is less important, and in fact, they're encouraged to dump cards out of their hand as quickly as possible.
And you know, Mage is rocking cards. Like their curve is too high to not have to hold cards. So you have what, up until turn 6, 7 to get a very strong divine favor every single time, because they just don't have enough low cards to even play in the early turns.
Yeah.
What do you think about Maul that turn?
I like it. I mean, I don't necessarily think I would have committed to the line that Tutek and Poland did on turn 2. However, having done that, this is consistent with that line of thinking, which is to play out the cards as efficiently as possible. So you now set up this board that isn't going anywhere. Next turn, you coin Fungalmancer and keep going, and then your turn after that is probably your Divine Favor turn.
Do you want
Okay, now you've drawn level up, things get a little bit interesting.
This is just not how I would play the matchup, to be honest. I'm definitely not saying I'm right. You know, I'm not you. But like, for example, so if you're doing that, it looks like a coin Fungalmancer, but then you've used coin Fungalmancer on, you know, your opponent's at 26, and you've made a board that they can then start using their cards for, so Divine Favor's worse.
What cards on 5 mana interact with a double Divine Shielded buffed Fungalmancer board, though?
Well, they can start to use. You get like 1 attack.
Which, by the way, great spot to ping the middle one. Right off the bat.
Okay,
Coin Fungalmancer is
a
a lot less good when you ping the Divine Shield off specifically the middle one.
Yeah, that is actually pretty good. I mean, it's getting the job done. Don't get me wrong. I have not seen the matchup be played this way that often.
I will never too heavily criticize anyone that picks a line and then sticks to it, and that is what they have done in this position. They have chosen to aggressively use every card in their hand for as much damage as they can, as quickly as they can, and then refill afterwards with the Divine Favor. That's the line that they had to begin with. They've barely pressed the button the entire game up until this point, and now they're in the position where they have pushed a ton of damage, and the Mage is having to scramble to drop an AoE on the board every single turn.
Yeah, and that Fungalmancer is pretty sweet as well, because you know, we can see that there's Meteor available turn 6 is something you have to consider. You also have to just consider 4 extra damage when they're on 16. Like, that's just damage right now, and you have Vine Cleaver in 2 turns. You can spend next turn using Divine Favor if you really want, and then you have Vine Cleaver for, at worst, 4 damage from hand for 7 mana.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to try and freeze you. Well, they can't freeze you, actually, so they can't ooze what isn't there, right? So if 1 damage gets through, next turn or this turn, well, sorry, next turn, because the turn's over, then there's just a problem. It should be dead before the ooze can be played.
Yeah, huge problem.
1 damage isn't that much to ask. If a weapon gets drawn now, the second Maul.
Blizzard was the safest option there, though, because Meteor left damage on the board, which I think Belgium recognize, as you pointed out, is potentially death to Vine Cleaver then at that point. Dragon's Fury, if it repeats what happened last turn, hits the Polymorph, of which, look at the spells that are drawn. Double Meteor, double Dragon's Fury, Flame Strike, Blizzard drawn in hand.
Is it?
Pretty likely that Dragon's Fury hits that Polymorph. That then leaves a 5/1 up on board, which is just straight up death at that point. So Blizzard was the only safe option for Belgium, where they end up going with the turn. But now, Tutek and Poland, even with the Gluttonous Ooze threat in mind, you know, they'll know Gluttonous Ooze is, of course, a card that Control Mage has in their options, but the power of Vine Cleaver is that it makes a board at the same time it pushes damage. So if Gluttonous Ooze comes down, then it's a very specific combination that Belgium have to be able to answer that board state. Oh, boy.
It doesn't fix anything, right?
It looks pretty helpful to me.
Oh, right, because of the Clay. Sure, yeah. Mana issues. It's just gone too fast, haven't they? This never happens to me. If I try this, I just die.
I mean, if you draw this and you don't specifically just have, like, Acaris Veteran Lost in the Jungle into double Fungalmancer, you probably run out of steam just a lot quicker than this.
That's what I'm saying.
But
I just can't get anything going.
I never would have executed this game anything like this. I honestly don't know if they pressed hero power at all in that game.
I don't think they... Well, they didn't do it turn 1.
And they
Didn't do it turn 2. We just saw the other turns.
Wow. I have, like, again, I've been on a high horse of people pressing the button too little in Odd Paladin. Poland have their own ideas, but again, what that goes to show you is that even if you accept the general rule is that you should press the button on every turn you can, general rules, the most important thing about them in Hearthstone is understanding when to tear them up and throw them out the window, because there is always a situation where you can break the rules based on a specific draw, a specific build of your opponent's deck, a specific matchup, a specific game state, whatever it is. Hearthstone is a game where the strategy is always in flux, and it's why it's so hard to call anything out as definitively right or definitively wrong.
And also, it's the way you learn Hearthstone, right? First thing you learn, you play on curve. You just play stuff as and when you've got the mana. The next thing you learn is sometimes you don't play on curve, and it already just goes away there. I believe we have Dorito available on for an interview as the winner. So, hey, can you hear me?
Hey, yes,
Oh,
yes,
awesome. So first off, congratulations on winning your first match in HGG this year. It's a great performance. How were you feeling going into this match? Did you feel you had the preparation locked down? Were you happy with all the decks you ended up with after the pick and ban phase?
After the pick and ban phase, we felt amazing. We were pretty favored going into the match because we just got the matchups we wanted. We were we're really happy with our preparation. We did put a lot of time into that, and the main we were stressed about the pick and ban phase, and after that it just went really smoothly.
Do you like this new format overall? Do you think it's an improvement on what we were dealing with last year?
I mean, like the problem with the pick and ban phase is that it might be random. Like it is random to a certain extent, right? We do put a lot of thought in our picks, and it did end up paying off for us. But I think when you prepare well, you might get rewarded. But I don't feel you can get rewarded like 100% of the time.
Okay, so talk to me, just diving into the series, about that last Paladin game in particular. Like, which of the players, or maybe it was all of you, was pushing to play that game like so aggressively? Like, I'm not sure you pressed hero power once in that entire game,
yes,
right? You just played your cards.
Yes. So that's just how you win this. How you win that matchup. Like I knew that. My teammates also knew that. So we just mulliganed really aggressively. We got the start we wanted. And also like the turn with Divine Favor, we really played that only to get the weapon or a one drop with Divine Sheet that both was setting up lethal with Vine Cleaver. We get it paid off for us, fortunately for us, and so that's pretty much it. Because if the game goes long, the mage gets favored with Oh, I think you know what I meant.
Yes.
Okay. And you talked a lot about how much preparation you guys did as a team. How was the communication during the match, during the actual games? Was the communication strong? Do you think that's a strength of yours, or do you think that's something you have to work on going forward in the next few weeks?
I think we could do a little bit better than we did. There's definitely some stuff that we can work on and that we will work on, because we weren't really familiar with this format, especially like me, 8 and Dogme, because they played in the last roster. But I think like we know what to do, and we are on a good way to communicate better.
Does A8 bully you now that he's a big Hearthstone superstar and everything?
Oh yeah, but like that's just our relationship. We bully each other from the beginning, because I'm not sure if you know, but like I know A8 from the beginning. We actually met at the very first playoffs, so we are friends from then till now. We practice non-stop, like we practice till this point. Like I help him prep for champs. So, but yeah, he does, and he can end up.
I really like your strategy. Guys, I'll do the interview because I need to tell everyone that it was my fault that A8 qualified. I practiced with it. So. But no, that's awesome to hear, and it must help quite a lot in terms of teamwork, just playing with at least one player that you've played with for so long. But again, thanks a lot for your time, and congratulations on the first win for you guys in this year's HGG. So good luck with the rest of the matches.
Thank you for having me.
Good job. I like that. Dorito's definitely like, give me the interview.
Yeah.
Not A8. Not
sure.
You've had your time.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Poland win though, as you know, kind of the host nation of HGG, if you want to look at it like that. Like when I was doing my little pre-show meme of it's coming home, but where is the home of Hearthstone? I had to choose between like USA, home of Blizzard, home of Hearthstone, or Poland, home of HGG. Right? Like which of those locations does it come to?
Ended up definitely wasn't UK.
Yeah, of course. I mean, UK isn't the home of Hearthstone. It's not my fault. Everyone assumed that's what I meant. But it's. I ended up going with the USA because I think, like, just on paper, they have an incredible team. Just maybe that step beyond what Poland have. But we've been hanging around Nimch for many, many years now. Who, at a drop of a hat, will tell you how fantastic all of these Polish players are. So we've heard a lot about these guys, including AA. Nimch was giving us the lowdown on AA, 2 to 3 years ago, telling us that he was going to be a big breakout player in Hearthstone, and it came true. So we remain for it to be seen with the rest of these Polish guys that are making up the team. But, as I said, they seem to have a great relationship together, and, that bit of banter and bullying that they described on the team, that kind of thing's crucial for, like, a healthy working relationship, as we demonstrate.
But anyway, let's check out the match just before we go and leave you for the final match. So Chinois did get the win, and an impressive game with that Hunter. Like I said, I'm super interested in that list and how it gets played out and how it evolves in the next couple of weeks. But then Poland, no messing about anymore. Boom, boom, boom. 3 wins straight, finished it up, and they put their point on the board, taking down Belgium, who again